Book 1, Bazur's Plot, Chapter 44 and 45. Chapter 44, Back at the Palace. We arrived at the palace and started to unload the carriages we were in. There were surprisingly many creatures there, a lot of elves, but also these seemed to be different types. Tara noticed me looking at the creatures curiously and explained. These look like elves, but these are with the Hollow tribe, and they are kind of between elves and something else. They have always loved the sea and the land. Their houses were half underground for that reason, and the whole village close to the sea. I talked to them, and they do not want to go to tunnels but return to the village, which I must say is great. I'm not sure how much more the tunnels can take since we have so many to go there. I nodded and said, "True, I was wondering about that too." We guided the awakened ones to the great hall, which was now almost empty compared to yesterday. The Myrians were away and a lot of creatures had left with the transports. There were only those 10 odd ones with their newly found tribe mates that nobody seemed to know where to take them. They looked happy guiding the new awakened ones, and I heard them explaining to newcomers what had happened, where to rest, and where was food, and all that stuff that one needs to know. White Goddess came down to the stairs and said happily, "First team back to arrive. I assumed you were hungry since you did not return for lunch. This way." We followed her to the backyard. There was nobody else yet, just us and those creatures. Valets poured us a plate full of food, and White Goddess said, "We will have a big dinner tonight." I was thinking buffet style again, so I asked for you just a plate now. You can ask for more food if you need. I looked at the towering plate in my hands and said, smiling, "I think this will be enough." Tara said, "White Goddess, looks like you have cleared the great hall almost from all the creatures. All went well with the home transports?" White Goddess smiled. "Thankfully, we knew where most of the tribes were hidden. With the face you are recovering our loved Myria folks. This palace was running out of space. Now I feel more confident that we can take in all you find." She signaled somewhere behind me, and very tall valet came. It was one of the ones from the front yard this morning arranging the transports. He was very handsome, human-shaped, but had a crocodile mohawk going all the way from top of his head to back and forming a big tail. That was an interesting creature. Still, he had clearly human form added to it. Interesting and very fascinating. Tara whispered my ear, "I think he's a Swamplex tribe member." White Goddess looked at his valet and said, "Brock, would you mind telling us how the transports went today?" Rock bowed and said, "They went really well. All Morburns left a little before the ladies' group first carriage came back. So I'm expecting them back actually shortly. The last transports were the closest ones, so they should be coming to eat soon. They did decide to eat lunch only when coming back from the last transport. The first ones were the furthest, and I understood that the awakened ones were not so comfortable. But I would not rate that highly. We were returning them to their hidden homes, and that was the target anyway." Tara smiled and said, "I'm sure sitting on Morbern's back for the awakened was a new experience. The ride is surprisingly smooth, but still it is totally new experience, and nothing else can prepare one for it." We all smiled. I said, It looks like then that all has been going well today." At the same time, there were noises coming from the open doors from the palace hall. Stonehead and Garnock with their group of capritors were returning back. They were happily chatting. Valets were bringing them big platefuls, and White Goddess hurried to tell them, "There will be a buffet dinner today. Don't worry, there will be much more food for you." Garnock said, "Thank you, White Goddess. We are not greedy. The running just takes a lot of energy. And the food is so good." We heard voice behind them. "Food? Where's food?" It was Jack. Everyone started to laugh. Behind Jack, there were all other guys from the group, and also Deepclaw Moorbairn, and the last group of Capritors, where Tico was included. Tara explained, "Hey, all together again." They were given amazing plates of food, and for a moment nobody spoke anything but just enjoyed the food. Tara and I were finished, and we gave an update for others on what was going on and for our trip to Halo Halo. Tico stood up and said, "All our 3 transport teams' trips went well, and we returned all who we had left to their homes, except those odd ones we don't know where to take them. It was a lovely day with multiple reunions." All Capritors and Moorbears nodded. Deepclaw said, "This was a good day. We are ready now tomorrow to go for the Fourth Woods. Tara, I expect you have some kind of plan for it. Are we leaving early?" Tara said. "Yes, we will leave at sunrise. I need to know what Tora, your group, did today, and who did you uncurse?" Tora was just finishing his fairy nectar mug and said, "Yes, we found a few who we needed to find to help us tomorrow. Aquarins," White Goddess said. "So he did catch some of them too. I think we used to have about 10 of them, or how many did you find?" Tora said. "We found 8 of them. Let me tell you a story somewhat from beginning to an end." I leaned back to listen on my sofa with a new cup of fairy nectar. I could live on this stuff alone. This was so good and refreshing. Tora started to explain their day. We started to scan. Jack started to scan from the crossroads, and there were a few cursed ones right away there. We picked them up and continued our way. It was somewhat way until Tide Wharf Haven, and we did not find more until we were very close to the village. For Jack and Sarah, that village is very close to Fourth Woods, which has very many water bodies and water-related villages. Therefore, this village always has had many inhabitants who want to live underwater and sometimes on top of the water. Tora was taking a sip of nectar and asked, "Are there creatures who can choose how to breathe?" Tora smiled. "Yes, Myria has all kind of creatures." He continued, "So we started to do the uncursing, and there was almost the whole village there. We didn't talk to Tide Wharf Heaven folks after. We did talk to the Tide Wharf Heaven folks after we had all found and revived that there should be only maybe 3 who are unaccounted for. But a couple of them remember that there were missing ones were on some kind of trip," Tara said. "That may mean that they are part of the army or somewhere else cursed too." Tara continued, "So it took for us a good while." Tora continued, "So it took for us for a good while to talk the village creatures to come here to rest for the night. Since I knew we were going to go back to Tide Wharf Heaven to cross over, I managed to talk them into coming to rest, and then they want to go back to their village tomorrow." Tora continued, quickly looking at White Goddess. "They do understand the situation and risks. They also said that they will have mandatory pairing up from now on, so there would nobody be alone, and that should help that nobody's getting surprised and then cursed." White Goddess did not say anything, and Tora continued. And there were 8 of those occurrences. I already explained to them what we would need as help. And I was asking if that would be possible since they were recovering. But Tim and Tom here, they had some extra remedy for those who were volunteering to come help us. That would speed up their recovery so that there would not be any risk for them. So we have 3 young males and 1 young female volunteering. Jack leaned toward me and said, "Sarah, you think you have seen unique and amazing creatures, but the ones we awakened today are so unique. There seems to be multiple nautical related or something out of my imagination that I cannot even describe. All creatures here are amazing and unique, but that village, Tide Dwarf Heaven, just took my breath away." I looked at him and trying to understand and imagining what he had experienced. And Jack continued, "You will see them at the dinner." I looked at Jack. "Do you know what he's talking about regarding tomorrow? Helping on what?" Jack shrugged his shoulders and said, "No, but I'm okay with it. This is such a cool adventure that I'm sure it will be amazing tomorrow also," I said aloud. "Well, that's a good way to think about it." I was clearly more concerned, and everyone started to laugh. Tara said, "Not to worry. We have not told you, since it is actually a really cool thing what we are going to do tomorrow. So we decided to keep it as a little surprise." I looked at her and smiled. Okay, I will stop asking. Nothing that I need to be worried anyway." Dora comforted me by saying, "No, it is nothing you need to be worried about. You will see tomorrow. Now, I think White Goddess's dinner is ready and we need to go eat and meet the creatures we saved today." Gosh, I just finished my lunch. Well, that was actually already a couple hours ago, but still. But maybe some dessert and some more fairy nectar. I took my mug and followed everyone to the palace front yard. We walked to the buffet dinner together, and I looked around and I could not believe the unique beauty around me. I was pointed out more of the swamplexes who looked like humans with the crocodile mane parts from top of the head and ending up to separate huge crocodile tails. Without the valet of outfit, it was more obvious how beautiful they were. Or these aquarines and about a dozen other creature types. I was just amazed. I walked to get food and introduced myself left and right to every creature coming across my path. The world seemed just perfect at this moment here in Myria. Chapter 45. Fourth Woods. What is this place? It was a morning. I woke up in the palace library in my hammock. Another well-slept night here in the palace. My stomach started to rumble when I thought of the palace breakfast. I raised myself and looked around and saw others getting up at the same time. There was no alarm or any noise to wake up, but everyone just awake the same time. Or maybe it was those smells coming in here and everyone wanted food. Everyone got up without any protest and we packed our hammocks and gave them to Tara. It was still a mystery where did she put them, since they just seemed to disappear. As the plan was, we were going to stay together today and go to the Fourth Woods to continue rescues. And there was something that was not told to me or Jack, something different about this Fourth Woods. Well, I would know very soon what it was. The plan was still trying to be unnoticed by Bazur, avoiding the battle with him. Hopefully we could do the whole Fourth Woods before he would come to attack and find us. Everyone had eaten and the carriages arrived in front of us. Dora said, "Everyone to carriages, they will take us to river crossing, so we will not lose any time or energy this morning." I saw that there were 4 carriages in use this morning. I saw that more bears also got into one and piled into, and 2 of carriages were piled all Capritors. I guess we were really wanting to go fast. All the rest of us fitted into one carriage and we went off. This was my first time in the carriage and that was going super fast. I guess this is the normal speed. We were really going fast, but the travel was smooth, I must say. Scenery just flashed on the sides. In no time at all, we arrived to Tide Wharf heaven. And I could not believe what I saw. It was a picturesque village for sure, right on the shore. Myria folks called that harbor. Well, it had proper piers for sure. I guess the inhabitants were brought before us here, since the whole village was very lively and there were all kind of creatures walking all around doing chores. I met these creatures last night at the dinner, but now in daylight they were even more unique and interesting. Just like Jack said, they were unique. They were so unique that also my imagination did not really keep up. There were creatures that looked like ancient creatures that would be living only in the sea, or some kind of mixture like those swamplexes that reminded me more of crocodiles. The creatures were all in different sizes and shapes, literally. We arrived at the pier and Tara turned to face us. Everyone got quiet and waited for her to speak. Tara said, "Thank you. As you Myrian folks know, the Fourth Woods has least ground, but also a lot of underwater areas we need to check. There are kind of 2 stripes of lands with a couple villages we must go through, but then there is the underwater village that has multiple villages, or maybe better to say continuous long village underground." I looked at her and tried to understand her words. "Underwater," I said. "Underwater? What do you mean? How are we scanning underwater? We are humans." Tara and others chuckled. "Yes, we know. But there's a remedy for you to breathe, and you will be fine underwater too." Jack was beside me, clearly jumping up and down in excitement. He was ready. I was clearly more cautious of 2 of us. Tara did not pay any attention to us, but instead there was a group of interesting-looking creatures coming toward us. Almost like humanish creature in diver's wetsuit. They were walking on the dry ground, but definitely looked like they would rather be in the sea. They looked really fascinating. Tara signaled them to approach the group and said, "These are aquarians. They have ability to be on the ground of the water, but they prefer to be on ground or water, but they do prefer water. It is more fun in the water, they say. They have agreed to help us to check the underwater areas." Tara waited for any questions, but nothing came, so she continued. They are excellent swimmers, so they can pull us underwater and make scanning and uncursing easier when there is no swimming or moving needed from us. Since elves don't really like too much of the water, Dora and I will take the remedy part from you. So underwater goes only Sarah, Jack, Dora, and I. Underwater medical elves clearly relaxed after hearing this. Tara smiled at them lovingly and said, "If there is an awakened creature we need to bring up, you can then take care of them. However, the expectation is that we find nobody, since Bazur hates water. But since the underwater village is between Fourth Woods, 2 villages east and west. There is a possibility he has cursed a creature who has sunk to the bottom, to the village, to the underwater village. So we definitely need to check the Ocean Village for that reason too. So this is Third Woods Harbor City Tide Wharf Haven. And we are also missing some of the creatures here. We did count yesterday, and we are missing members also from the Fourth Woods villages. East side, Sunbubbleshire, Sunbubbleshire, Underwater Village, Bubble Drift Grotto, and West Village, Star Willow Cove. I thought to myself, I love these names, but it is so hard to keep up with the villages' names. Well, I guess I did not need to worry about it. Just enjoy like a Jack. I really need to adapt to this more relaxed way of living. This worrying is not really doing any good for me. I smiled at my own thoughts and continued to listen. Tara continued. So, we will do so that we will use these boats. She signaled to the peers. How did I miss that? I asked myself. There were 4 boats with their own varkuns standing tall and waiting for us. Wow, that was impressive view. How did I miss that? They were taking most of the scenery anyway right now, that I was continuing. To the East Village, Sunbubbleshire. And since all 3 villages can take kind of length of the whole Fourth Woods, we will do zigzag scanning. So we'll go the East Village all the way to the north, or East Island, you could say. And then Underwater Village back to the south. And then West Village again up to the north. And from there we will cross to the Fifth Woods. Underwater Village, Bubble Drift Grotto will be only 4 of us. But ground crew, you will move that time from south to the south of the West Island, Star Willow Cove. Still, you need to keep up where we are going if we happen to need some awakened ones that we will need to be bringing to you for recover. Tara stopped to get everyone opportunity to ask or comment. Well, I gotta say, the plan had always been great, so what I could possibly have to redirect it or anything. Tara continued. I have little left, so let's go over those. White Goddess has given permission to continuously bring the awakened ones to her, except fairies will go directly to Fairyland and elves will go to tunnels. Others will be coming to the meeting points to Varkun's boats, who will bring them here to this Tide Wharf Haven, where the creatures are helping the awakened ones to White Goddess's carriages. They will go to Palace Recover. That will help more Barons and Capritors too. We only need to worry to get them to moving meeting point with Varkuns. Why moving meeting point? The reason is that we want to make sure that Bazur does not catch us, and we are also moving, so the drop-off place is also moving. The places are only known by more Barons, Capritors, and Tora. This is great for us, since this will ensure Capritors have more energy for scouting and more Barons are there physically to protect us. Capritors and more Barons were nodding. Deepclaw, more Baron commented. Yes, we prefer this. We want to protect you, and we have felt that it has been a little challenging for us now to be in 2 places at once, doing transports and protecting you. This is better like this. If it does not take long to take the awakened ones to Varkuns, Tara smiled and said, let's go then. Tara stood at the pier and signaled the Capritors and Morbans to line up first to the boats. You go first. Let's see if you fit into this. And Sarah and Jack, you can move us if needed, but not before Morberns and Capritors have arrived to the other side. So if you all fit to these boats, Barkuns, you stay and wait on the other shore and don't return for us here. Barkuns nodded. Capritors and Morberns did just about fit. They were heavy and it was important to have the boats still able to float well. Boats turned around and started to cross the river. The river was not that wide. I guess the underwater village started soon there, so there was a village area all along.